Hillman sets a screen, rolls to the basket. Gray.
Welcome back to Clark USA fans. Today, we're diving into a story that doesn't just happen on the scoreboard or in the highlight reels, but behind the scenes, where grit, resilience, and quiet determination shape a player into the kind of teammate every star dreams of having. This is the story of Kate Martin, the unsung hero, the engine room, the player whose contributions often went unnoticed by casual fans but were absolutely essential to every triumph Caitlin Clark and the Iowa program achieved. Kate Martin's journey to this moment was far from linear. She didn't start the season as a headliner or even as a consistent starter. Instead, she was quietly sitting on the Vegas bench, game after game, minute after minute, watching, analyzing, learning. In A.A. Wilson's world, there seemed to be no space for her. There seemed to be no acknowledgement of her talent, no opportunity to shine. And yet, beneath that veneer of quiet observation, there was a fire waiting to ignite. She had the talent, the basketball IQ, and the work ethic. It was just a matter of time before the right circumstances aligned. Everything changed with one phone call. Caitlin Clark, already a household name in collegiate basketball circles, reached out to Kate, and in that moment, an entire trajectory shifted. That call carried more weight than any praise, any accolade, any coaching directive ever could. It gave Kate courage, the courage to leave Las Vegas behind, to step into a completely new beginning with the Golden State, and to believe, truly believe, that her WNBA dreams weren't over. "I didn't know if my career was even going to survive," Kate admitted later. But Caitlin said the one thing nobody else had the guts to say, the unvarnished truth, the reality check that only someone who sees both the talent and the struggle can deliver. That conversation wasn't about stats or highlight plays. It was about validation, belief, and trust. And it was enough to pull Kate back from the edge, to reignite her career, and to propel her into a chapter that no one saw coming. Kate's story is one that doesn't appear on stat sheets or highlight reels. You won't see the screen she sets that frees up the shooter, or the box out that leads to a second chance basket, or the calm, measured voice in a chaotic huddle. Yet every single player who shared a court with her knew exactly who was making those critical plays happen. Teammates always know. And that's where the beauty of Kate Martin lies. She understood the game beyond points and rebounds. She understood roles, timing, trust, and selflessness. During her time at Iowa, Kate played in Caitlin Clark's shadow, and she did it with a level of maturity that most young players never reach. Not because she lacked confidence, but because she recognized the intelligence in knowing when to step forward and when to step back. She wasn't chasing individual accolades. She was building a system where everyone could thrive, where Caitlin could excel, and where the team could reach heights that would have been impossible otherwise. Her numbers were undeniably impressive, averaging 13.1 points and nearly 7 rebounds a game during Iowa's back-to-back Final Four runs in 2023 and 2024.
The defense doesn't sleep. Williams with a steal.
Those are not benchwarmer stats. Those are starter-level, leadership-level stats. But beyond the numbers was a rare kind of basketball intellect. Kate had the uncanny ability to step back when necessary, to cede the spotlight, and to then step up when the moment demanded her presence. Whether it was setting screens that allowed Caitlin to fire logo threes or boxing out the opponent for crucial rebounds, Kate's contributions were subtle yet transformative. Her voice in the huddle, her timing on defense, her ability to read the opponent's offense, these were qualities that didn't get captured on camera but define the essence of her impact. It wasn't just about the physicality or the tactical execution, it was also mental. Kate Martin had an incredible ability to stabilize the team in high-pressure situations. She understood that basketball at this level is as much a mental game as it is physical. One missed shot or one bad possession can unravel even the most talented team. But Kate's presence, calm, confident, deliberate, ensured that Iowa never cracked under pressure. Her leadership extended beyond the gym. She invested in relationship equity off the court, building real connections with teammates through dinners, conversations, and genuine engagement. These relationships fostered trust, and that trust translated into a team culture where accountability, respect, and performance thrived. Take, for example, the 2023 Final Four matchup against South Carolina. The Gamecocks entered undefeated, boasting size, length, athleticism, and a frontcourt famously dubbed the Twin Towers. Analysts, fans, and opponents alike expected Iowa to be overwhelmed. Caitlin Clark would need to perform at an otherworldly level to keep the game close. But Kate Martin turned expectations on their head. She was everywhere, communicating preemptively on defense, setting screens with perfect timing, cutting off driving lanes, grabbing rebounds in traffic, and keeping the team focused. Every time a teammate faltered, she provided reassurance. "Look at me. Deep breath. We're fine." These small but critical interventions were essential, preventing a single possession from spiraling into a cascade of mistakes. Kate's impact wasn't always visible, but it was absolutely indispensable. She was the engine room of the team, the consistent, unheralded presence that allowed stars like Caitlin to shine. Her leadership and maturity created a ripple effect, influencing everyone around her and changing the very culture of Iowa basketball. Caitlin Clark herself acknowledged the difference, noting how night and day it felt compared to the day she was drafted. Before Kate's arrival, Caitlin had anticipated a player who would try to run everything, who might overshadow or challenge her. Instead, Kate arrived with a mindset of making everyone better, not just herself. This kind of selfless leadership is rare, intrinsic, and unteachable, a quality that transforms a good team into a great one.
Clock to one. Lloyd. Oh, yeah! To Lloyd.
The partnership between Kate and Caitlin wasn't instantaneous. It was forged in the trenches, built on trust earned through consistent effort and reliability. Kate's dedication was evident. The first one in the gym, the last one to leave, never seeking recognition, but fully committed to the craft and to her teammates. Caitlin noticed, coaches noticed, and slowly, the entire program began feeding off that energy. The ripple effect was profound. When your hardest worker isn't the star player, it changes the culture, the expectations, and the performance of every member of the team. Beyond the physical and mental aspects, Kate's story is also about character. She managed difficult conversations with Caitlin with grace, tact, and honesty, built through off-court relationships that established credibility and trust. She had the rare ability to guide, mentor, and correct without creating friction, a skill that cannot be taught but is invaluable in a high-pressure, high-visibility sport like basketball. Her leadership went beyond plays. It extended to creating an environment where young athletes could thrive, feel safe to make mistakes, and grow into confident performers themselves. Kate's narrative culminates in moments like the Final Four game against South Carolina, where every element of her skill set, character, and basketball intelligence converged. She was communicating, executing, protecting, and stabilizing, all simultaneously. Caitlin Clark performed at her usual elite level, drawing attention, creating opportunities, and scoring. Yet it was Kate Martin's quiet, consistent work that allowed those moments to happen with precision and effectiveness. She dismantled South Carolina's rhythm without the need for fanfare or recognition. She wasn't looking to be on camera or in the headlines. She was focused solely on winning, on ensuring the team functioned as a cohesive, unstoppable unit. This is the essence of Kate Martin's legacy. She is the archetype of the indispensable teammate, unheralded, unassuming, but absolutely crucial. She embodies the intelligence, work ethic, and emotional acuity necessary to complement greatness without overshadowing it. Her story is a reminder that basketball, like life, is often about the contributions you don't see, the quiet consistency, the unseen sacrifices, and the unwavering support that makes success possible. Without Kate Martin, Caitlin Clark's headlines, statistics, and iconic moments would not have been possible. Without her, the team culture, the trust, and the cohesion necessary for championship-level performance would have faltered. She represents the countless players whose names may not be etched into highlight reels, but whose impact is deeply felt, remembered, and respected by those who truly understand the game. Kate's story is proof that greatness isn't always visible, that leadership comes in many forms, and that the most crucial contributions are often the ones made quietly, with heart, dedication, and integrity. Kate Martin's journey from the bench in Vegas to the engine room of Iowa's back-to-back Final Four runs is not just a basketball story. It's a narrative of resilience, trust, intelligence, and character. It's a story that reminds us that every superstar relies on someone like Kate, someone whose unwavering commitment, quiet leadership, and relentless work ethic turn individual brilliance into collective achievement. It's a story that deserves to be told, celebrated, and remembered. Not for the stats, not for the highlights, but for the quiet power of a player who made every game, every play, and every teammate better. Her legacy will live on in every screen set, every box out, every calming word in the huddle, and every young player who learns that leadership is about selflessness, trust, and consistency. Kate Martin was never meant to be the headline, but she is the heart, the soul, and the engine that made the headlines possible. And for fans of Clark USA, for those who follow Caitlin's journey, and for anyone who understands the beauty of team basketball, her story is essential, unforgettable, and deeply inspiring.
She can't believe it!
And there is a massive difference between being part of greatness and actively shaping it. For Kate Martin, that difference defined her career. When she reflected on her journey, she didn't point to the national championship stage, the record-breaking crowds, or the viral moments that dominated social media. She didn't even choose the games that shattered viewership records across men's and women's college basketball. Instead, she called one specific matchup the greatest moment of her career, the night Iowa defeated the best team in the country when almost no one believed they could. That game against South Carolina in the 2023 Final Four wasn't just another win. It was a statement. It was validation. It was proof. South Carolina entered undefeated, dominant, physically overwhelming, and mentally unshaken. Analysts predicted Iowa would struggle to survive the first half. Commentators openly suggested that Caitlin Clark would have to perform miracles just to keep the score respectable. The narrative was simple. Iowa was talented, but South Carolina was inevitable. Kate Martin saw it differently. When she later said, "We executed the game plan perfectly," it wasn't casual commentary. It was the voice of someone who understood every detail that went into dismantling a powerhouse. She didn't describe it as lucky. She didn't frame it as an upset built on chaos. She described it as precision. Preparation meeting opportunity. Discipline defeating dominance. And when the final buzzer sounded, that was the moment she held on to, not because it was flashy, but because it represented everything she believed about team basketball. Think about that for a moment. A player who went to back-to-back Final Fours. A player who performed in front of sold-out arenas. A player who was part of one of the most watched college basketball runs in modern history. And yet her defining highlight wasn't the spectacle. It was the execution of a plan against a team that nobody expected them to beat. That tells you everything about Kate Martin. She did not simply exist alongside greatness. She amplified it. She strengthened it. She made it sustainable. There's a rare skill in sports that never shows up in headlines, the ability to elevate everyone around you without demanding attention in return. Kate had that skill. Not in flashes. Not occasionally. Consistently. Her chemistry with Caitlin Clark during their Iowa years went far beyond drawn-up plays or rehearsed movements. It was instinctive. Kate knew when Caitlin's shot would bounce long and positioned herself for the rebound before the ball even left her teammates' fingertips. Caitlin, in return, sensed where Kate would cut or relocate, delivering passes that looked improvised but were built on months of repetition and trust. It wasn't just teamwork. It felt like anticipation bordering on telepathy. That South Carolina game was the clearest example. While Caitlin commanded defensive attention, stretching the floor and forcing rotations, Kate was quietly orchestrating the margins, the rebounds, the screens, the defensive rotations, the communication. When Iowa players felt the pressure rising, it was often Kate who steadied them with a look or a word. She wasn't chasing applause. She was protecting belief. But the leap from college dominance to professional survival is ruthless. And when Kate entered the WNBA with the Las Vegas Aces, she quickly discovered how different the professional world could be. Nobody truly prepares you for that transition. You can study film. You can train relentlessly. You can memorize the playbook. But stepping onto the same court as veterans who have built decade-long careers, who have mastered international systems, who operate with surgical precision, that is another reality entirely. The Aces selected her in the draft, and on paper, it seemed promising. The organization was elite. The coaching staff experienced. The system proven. But context matters. In Las Vegas, Aya Wilson was the franchise cornerstone. Chelsea Gray directed the offense with veteran command. The rotation was tight, deliberate, and championship-focused. For a rookie searching for footing, space was limited. Kate began her rookie season playing around 20 minutes per game, respectable, encouraging. But as the months passed, the rotation tightened. By September, her minutes dipped to 11. 5 per game. Her scoring fell to 2. 6 points. Rebounds to 1. 6. On the surface, those numbers suggest regression. But numbers without context can be misleading. They weren't the stats of a player declining. They were the stats of a player slowly being phased out. Then came the playoffs. 6 games. 3 total minutes. 3 minutes across 6 postseason contests. She wasn't injured. She wasn't struggling in practice.
The last 2 games of this regular season is Citron takes and makes from deep.
The Aces were simply pursuing a championship with veterans they trusted, and development wasn't part of the immediate plan. Rookies became practice players. Scout team bodies. Insurance policies. For someone who had averaged 13 points and 7 rebounds in college, who had played pivotal roles in historic wins, who had built a reputation on basketball IQ and reliability, the silence of the bench was deafening. Kate has spoken carefully about that period. She never used dramatic language. She never accused or blamed. She simply described it as hard. Hard. Not unfair. Not devastating. Just hard. But beneath that professionalism was something deeper. There's a unique kind of pain in being overlooked in a place you fought to reach. It isn't loud like losing a championship. It doesn't erupt like missing a final shot. It's quieter. It builds slowly. Practice by practice. Game by game. Timeout by timeout. You look down the bench and realize you've become invisible. Confidence, the kind you built over 4 years of proving yourself, begins to erode, not because you failed, but because you stopped being allowed to try. The transition from college to the WNBA humbles even the most decorated athletes. The speed is faster. The physicality harsher. Defensive schemes more complex. Veterans anticipate mistakes before they happen. But as many greats have said, talent flourishes in the right environment and suffocates in the wrong one. In Las Vegas, Kate Martin's talent felt buried. Not erased. Not diminished. Just unused. And perhaps the most difficult part was that nobody seemed alarmed by it. The system was functioning. The Aces were winning. Championships were the goal. Development could wait. At her lowest point, Kate turned to the person who had always understood her game better than anyone, Caitlin Clark. This wasn't a casual check-in. Caitlin herself was navigating the storm of being the face of a franchise in Indiana, absorbing physical defense, relentless media attention, and the weight of expectation. She had her own battles. But real friendships don't schedule convenience. They answer when it matters. When Kate explained the shrinking minutes, the playoff bench, the creeping fear that her career was dissolving before it truly began, Caitlin didn't offer cliches. She didn't default to just keep working. She had witnessed Kate's preparation, her sacrifice, her intelligence. She knew the gap between Kate's ability and her opportunity. So she said something direct, something honest, something uncomfortable but necessary. You're not failing. They're failing you. Those words matter. Because sometimes belief doesn't disappear, it just gets drowned out by circumstance. And hearing someone articulate what you quietly fear can reignite something powerful. Caitlin wasn't attacking the organization. She was reframing the narrative. She was reminding Kate that limited minutes don't equal limited talent. That being overlooked doesn't equal being unworthy. That phone call didn't instantly change rotations or contracts, but it changed perspective. It shifted the weight from self-doubt to strategic awareness. It planted the idea that maybe the issue wasn't capability, maybe it was fit. And fit in professional sports is everything. Kate Martin's story isn't about resentment. It's about resilience. It's about understanding that growth sometimes requires leaving comfort, even when comfort looks like a championship roster. It's about recognizing that development demands opportunity. The South Carolina game proved she could elevate a team when trusted. Iowa proved she could build chemistry that felt instinctive. Las Vegas tested whether she could endure invisibility without losing herself. And through it all, the defining thread remains this: Kate Martin doesn't measure success by noise. She measures it by impact. The greatest moment of her career wasn't the brightest spotlight. It was the night execution silenced doubt. The night teamwork defeated inevitability. The night belief proved stronger than prediction. And perhaps the next chapter of her journey will be built on the same principle: that talent, when finally given room to breathe, doesn't just survive. It transforms everything around it.
6.2 on the clock for Wheeler. Wheeler spinning.
6 words. That was all it took. 6 simple, direct, unfiltered words that cut through months of doubt, silence, and quiet frustration. For most people, a short sentence might feel temporary, like encouragement that fades with time. But for Kate Martin, those 6 words didn't just comfort her, they reframed everything. They shifted the entire lens through which she had been viewing her situation. Because here's the dangerous thing about staying in the wrong environment for too long: eventually you stop blaming the environment. You start blaming yourself. The human mind is wired to search for explanations. When something doesn't make sense, shrinking minutes, disappearing opportunities, unexplained silence, the brain fills in the gaps. And the easiest explanation to accept is often the most damaging one. Maybe I'm just not good enough. That thought doesn't arrive loudly. It creeps in quietly. Maybe Iowa was lightning in a bottle. Maybe college success doesn't translate. Maybe the WNBA exposed weaknesses no one wanted to say out loud. Maybe the Aces coaching staff saw something in practice that justified the declining minutes. Maybe the stat line wasn't lying. Those doubts can stack up quickly, especially when there's no communication to counter them. And when you're a competitor like Kate, someone who built her reputation on work ethic and accountability, the instinct isn't to blame others. It's to look inward, to ask what you could have done differently, to search for flaws. Caitlin Clark shut that spiral down immediately. She didn't hesitate. She didn't soften the message. She reminded Kate of what they had built together, not just the trophies, not just the Final Four banners, not just the nationally televised moments that went viral. She reminded her of the mornings no one saw, the film sessions, the defensive breakdowns Kate memorized, the scouting reports she internalized without ever asking for recognition, the trust that took 2 full seasons to solidify. Caitlin had witnessed that work up close. She wasn't about to let one professional franchise redefine it. She told Kate something powerful: that sometimes the bravest move isn't staying and grinding harder in a place that overlooks you. Sometimes the strongest move is finding a place that actually values what you bring. At the time of that conversation, Kate didn't even know what her future looked like. The expansion draft loomed quietly in the background. The Las Vegas Aces hadn't offered clarity. She didn't know if she would be protected, didn't know if she would be selected, didn't know if she would be cut loose without explanation. That kind of organizational silence speaks volumes. Uncertainty can feel heavier than rejection because it keeps you suspended. You can't move forward, but you're not officially let go. You're just waiting. And waiting leaves space for doubt to grow. But something had already shifted inside her after that call. So when the news came that she hadn't been protected, that the Golden State Valkyries had the opportunity to select her, she didn't spiral. She didn't interpret it as proof that she had failed. Instead, she saw it as confirmation that a new door was opening. The fact that I knew I was going to get another shot, I was excited, she said. That mindset didn't happen by accident. It was the product of perspective. Leaving Las Vegas wasn't surrender. It wasn't quitting. It wasn't running away from competition. It was choosing growth over comfort. It was choosing possibility over familiarity. It was choosing herself. And then came Golden State. The Golden State Valkyries were not the Las Vegas Aces. There was no established championship core dominating minutes. No rigid hierarchy that rookies had to silently accept. This franchise was brand new, a blank canvas in every sense. New identity, new culture, new expectations. And in a brand new system, everything is opportunity. General Manager Ohima Nyanin made the organizational philosophy clear from the start. She didn't just want talent. She wanted unselfishness, high basketball IQ, players who valued culture as much as stat lines, builders, competitors who understood that foundations are laid long before banners hang. Kate Martin wasn't just compatible with that vision. She embodied it. When head coach Natalie Nake stepped in, someone who had already observed Kate's professionalism during her time in Vegas, she knew exactly what kind of player she was welcoming. Nake's philosophy centered around effort and intent. Mistakes were part of development. Complacency was not. Communication was non-negotiable. For Kate, that environment felt different immediately. It felt lighter. Not easier, but aligned. She described the atmosphere as phenomenal.
The defense doesn't sleep. Williams with a steal.
The collective excitement to improve. The shared commitment to building something meaningful from scratch. That kind of energy can't be manufactured. It comes from players who believe they are contributing to something real. Chase Center became the Valkyries' home, one of the premier arenas in North America. And the Bay Area embraced the team instantly. Season tickets sold out. The inaugural home game against Los Angeles saw fans fill the building and stay until the final buzzer, even in a loss. Kate noticed that. Every player noticed that. When fans remain invested through adversity, it signals something important: belief. And belief fuels growth. Her role in Golden State didn't require reinvention. It required authenticity. Rebound hard. Defend relentlessly. Make the extra pass. Take the open shot without hesitation. Communicate. Stabilize. Compete. She wasn't chasing scoring titles. She wasn't hunting highlight reels. She was doing what she had always done best, strengthening the system around her. The Valkyries also infused the roster with experienced international players who brought speed, floor spacing, and high-level decision-making. That style fit Kate's instincts perfectly. Quick reads, smart rotations, fast-paced ball movement. She described it as a crazy spark, high IQ basketball played with joy. Joy matters. In Las Vegas, survival was the priority. In Golden State, growth became the focus. There's a profound difference between being tolerated and being needed. In Vegas, Kate sometimes felt like a depth chart insurance policy. In Golden State, she felt foundational. That shift changes how you walk into practice, how you absorb coaching, how you carry yourself into games. Sue Bird once spoke about how critical system fit is in professional basketball. Talent alone doesn't guarantee impact. The right system unlocks what's already there. The wrong system can bury it. Kate Martin found the system that unlocked her. And here's what this entire journey truly represents. She endured a full season of shrinking opportunity. She watched her minutes decline. She absorbed the quiet blows to her confidence. And she kept showing up. That resilience was always hers. The phone call didn't create her strength. It reminded her of it. Golden State didn't rescue her career. It offered space for it. Caitlin Clark didn't save Kate Martin. She reflected truth back to her when doubt distorted it. Ultimately, Kate saved herself. By being willing to leave the familiar. By accepting uncertainty. By betting on alignment over reputation. That's a lesson that stretches far beyond basketball. There are people everywhere sitting in environments they've outgrown, convincing themselves that persistence alone will fix misalignment. Sometimes persistence is admirable. Sometimes it's limiting. The courage to pivot can be just as powerful as the discipline to endure. Kate Martin chose to pivot. Now the future in Golden State remains unwritten, which makes it exciting. A new franchise. A growing fan base. A culture still forming. There will be challenges. Expansion teams rarely glide smoothly, but they offer something priceless: opportunity. Opportunity to lead. Opportunity to define identity. Opportunity to prove that impact was never about circumstance, it was about fit. If her Iowa years proved she could elevate a championship contender, and her Vegas season proved she could endure invisibility without breaking, then Golden State might prove something even bigger, that when placed in the right system, she can help build something lasting from the ground up. 6 words started the shift. But the chapters ahead will be written by actions. By rebounds secured in traffic. By defensive rotations executed on instinct. By passes made without hesitation. By the same quiet consistency that defined her college legacy. Kate Martin's story isn't about revenge. It's about rediscovery. And sometimes, rediscovery is louder than redemption.